Dolores Huerta is a monumental, iconic figure in the history of not just women's rights, but also labor rights and activism. Dolores was born in April of 1930 in New Mexico. Her parents were a farm worker and a miner, and unfortunately, they divorced when she was very young. At the age of 3, she and her siblings moved with their mother to California to live with their grandfather. After moving, she rarely saw her father, but she did know that he was very politically minded. He was elected to the state legislature in 1938, and he was described essentially as a very fiery union leader. However, Dolores was more influenced by her mother. Her mother worked 2 jobs in order to support her children, one as a waitress and one as a canner. She was also a member of the United Cannery, Agricultural Packing, and Allied Workers of America. She eventually saved up enough money to buy a restaurant and a small hotel from a Japanese family who had been relocated thanks to the Executive Order 9066, which placed Japanese folks in internment camps during World War II. Her mother encouraged her to do well in school and to also be socially active. She was a Girl Scout and she attended Stockton High School, but her educational career was somewhat marred by racist teachers. One teacher even accused her of cheating because her papers were too well written to be written by someone who was of Hispanic heritage. She did not let that stop her, and she graduated from high school and received her teaching degree from the University of Pacific's Delta College. She became a school teacher, serving many poor rural children. Many of her students were from migrant families, and she was one of 3 bilingual teachers in the entire area, even though most of their students were Spanish-speaking. Dolores did not stay in the classroom for long because, quite frankly, she was too upset by what she saw. She said, "I couldn't tolerate seeing kids come to class hungry and needing shoes. I thought I could do more by organizing farm workers than by trying to teach their hungry children." In 1958, she helped found the Agriculturers Worker Association. She worked with the organization, but it struggled a lot, and so in 1962, she co-founded the National Farm Workers Association with Cesar Chavez and Gilbert Padilla. It's with this organization that she is best known. She was instrumental in organizing an agricultural workers' strike, particularly those who were of Latino and Filipino descent, who faced horrible work conditions, low wages, and labor exploitation. One of her most significant accomplishments was her leadership in the Great Boycott of the 1960s. While this strike centered on those who were being employed in grape vineyards, it really did raise awareness about the deplorable conditions that farm workers were forced to endure in the United States. The boycott was a massive success and eventually led to major grape growers agreeing to better working conditions and pay for their laborers. She was notorious for urging people forward with cries of "Si se puede," yes you can, in order to further the cause. She also operated as the union's lead negotiator. And when the AWOC and the NFWA merged to form the United Farm Workers Union, she is noted as being one of the leading voices when trying to secure a contract with the companies that would increase workers' wages and put in safety protocols to protect workers from pesticides. Her activism also expanded outside of the labor movement into the women's liberation movement. In 1974, she helped define the Coalition of Labor Union Women, and in 1975, she was instrumental in helping to pass the California Agricultural Labor Relations Act, the very first law to recognize the rights of farm workers and collective bargaining. On top of that, she was a founding board member of the Feminist Majority Foundation. Her work had a ripple effect on the broader civil rights movement, and she helped bring attention to the intersectionalities of race, class, and gender, and became a role model for many women in activism. With her leadership, she proved that women could be powerful leaders in movements that had traditionally been dominated by men. In 1993, not only was she inducted into the National Women's Hall of Fame, but she also received the Eleanor Roosevelt Award for Human Rights. Throughout the 1990s and 2000s, she worked to get people of Latina heritage as well as women into political office, as well as champion women's rights. In 2012, she was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom by President Barack Obama, which is one of the United States' highest honors. Her work for justice has inspired future generations of organizers and activists, advocating for those who have traditionally been marginalized and underrepresented in politics. She pushed through systemic barriers that were placed in her way as a woman of Latina descent. She faced sexism within the movement, but she held steadfast to her belief that women could lead and could make social change. Her legacy reminds us that social change is often driven by the tireless efforts of those who are often overlooked, but who refuse to stay silent. At age 94, she continues to fight for the equality of all people. She has not given up, and we should not either. She said we must use our lives to make the world a better place to live, not just to acquire things. That is what we are put on earth for. Her example of resilience, resistance, and commitment to radical change make her an important figure and central to the women's rights movement.